Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV, guys, and welcome to another edition of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, people, make sure you smash the like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and leave your thoughts in the comments below, as always. And Chelsea advanced to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup with a bit of a smash and grab against Newcastle last night. Last minute equaliser from Mudryk, and then going on to win 4-2 on pens with four unbelievable penalties taken in the shootout. Stamford Bridge was bouncing. It's been a long time since it's felt like that. But, as always, there's loads to get into. The performance against Newcastle, looking ahead to Wolves, kind of taking stock of where Chelsea are as we head into the new year, head into the January window. Loads to dive into, as always. Delighted to be joined by Dan for this week's episode, mate. Thanks for joining. Great to have you on. Mate, we needed that last night, didn't we? It felt like there was a whole lift for the fans, a lift for the club. I don't want to call it like a pivotal moment in the season because that feels a little bit extreme, but you kind of felt like we really needed that. And if we didn't get it, it could have been quite hard to come back from that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Obviously, good to be back on as well. What I would say is, I think getting to the final could be a pivotal moment in the season. That's why I think this competition is so important. I've got a lot of weight and expectation in what we can achieve if we can do something big in this competition. I think this is what the squad needs. It's where, if you remember the first time back in 2004-05 season with Jose Mourinho, we went and won this competition and it propelled that team onto a lot of success. It turned them into winners. And this is what this squad and this bunch of players is lacking at the moment.
Mate, it's one of them, isn't it? Like, League Cup's not really like that fashionable to be honest, in terms of how people view it. But Man City won like 4 in a row or whatever it was. They do take it seriously. And it's normally the same big teams that tend to win the League Cup, which kind of goes to show that big teams do take it seriously. And what you say is spot on about the winning mentality it breeds. It proves that this group of players can win stuff together, and this would be particularly massive because first trophy for Pochettino in England potentially, first trophy under this ownership, and first trophy for this new group of players. I don't think you can underestimate how important this could be. It's not just about winning the cup, it's about everything that kind of comes with it and you sort of move forwards with. So look, we're not there yet. It's semi-finals. Obviously the draw, we don't know what the draw is yet, but you have to say that a favourable draw could we could be returning to Wembley, which would be really big. But I mean, in terms of last night, mate, I mean, what did you make of it? Because for me, it felt like one of those games where we made yet another horrendous individual error at the back. Cole and Badiashile defending like Sunday League players, and Wilson obviously finishes well, but you'd expect that from a Premier League striker to score in a one-on-one. But mate, I thought we dominated that game, but we just couldn't find the breakthrough. So we've sort of seen that script so many times before, and then suddenly, just as you think all hope is lost and we're heading out and things could be turning pretty toxic, Mudryk pops up with an equaliser, capitalising on a Trippier mistake, and then the penalty shootout, which we can get into in a bit more detail, we were superb. But I mean, were you losing a little bit of hope as we headed towards, certainly last 10 minutes for me, I was thinking, it's just going to be one of them.
Yeah, last 10, I thought the game went a little bit flat. I felt like this is the script we've seen so many times before, as you said. I see us passing the ball around the centre-backs, not being able to penetrate a low block or mid-block so many times. This is becoming the identity of Chelsea under Pochettino, and that's probably something that worries me, and that's something I think we saw again last night, is that maybe our identity is a team that can hold onto the ball but not do anything with it. That's what I feel like I'm seeing a little bit too often with Pochettino. I agree with you. The way we conceded that goal yesterday is so sloppy and poor because it actually comes from Levi Colwill having the ball high up on the left-hand side, plays an awful pass back in field, and then Badiashile and Thiago Silva just getting a complete and utter mess, and the goalkeeper probably doesn't know what they're going to do either because he's barely played any minutes, and it just obviously ended up in Callum Wilson putting away a lovely finish, to be fair to him. But look, that's what's so annoying with this Chelsea team. I mean, on the pod last time, you guys were talking about discipline and the way that we've had so many yellow cards and stuff. And I think we have the ball in all these dangerous areas. Then it's just these individual mistakes leads us to have to make these fouls or bring players down, or otherwise we're going to concede. And that's what happened yesterday. We couldn't make the foul in time. And then obviously Badiashile ends up messing up the ball. and it ends up going in. Like, it's just an absolute mishap. And I can't put too much on a player like Badiashile because I feel like he's not really done too much wrong in a Chelsea shirt. It's just so frustrating that is how our games could be decided. And if it hadn't been for that Trippier mistake, we're out of the Carabao Cup on that. And it would be like, what a way to just let it fall apart, to be honest with you, when we're having quite a good run in this competition. And I do think that we have a serious chance of doing something in this competition.
No, I agree. Like, Pochettino said it himself. Like, I think it was either before the game or certainly he said it in recent weeks that we're our own worst enemies, and we absolutely are. The amount of games this season where we have thrown points away, not because the other team have outplayed us, not because they've done a moment of brilliance and you hold your hands up, because we are gifting goals away like Christmas has come early. We really are. And another one last night. Luckily, this time it didn't cost us, but you're not gonna get away with it every time. It is going to cost us. So like, that's why, I feel I do cut the manager a little bit of slack in certain instances where I'm thinking, well, what can you do about that? How is that the manager's fault? Obviously, you can sort of control how you respond and how you come back from that. I did feel that we responded reasonably well. One thing for me that did make a massive difference, the switch at half time with Gusto coming on. I know he originally went to left back, but just having an attacking fullback on the pitch that gets up into those attacking positions is an overlap on Jackson on that left side, allows him to come in field, almost make a bit of a front two. It makes such a difference. We were chatting about it after the game, like, obviously, we went with the 4 centre-backs because he clearly doesn't trust Martin or fancy him as a left-back. We knew Cole was going to play. Whether you agree or disagree with that, I disagree with it. But, we knew that Cole was going to play there. And Gusto clearly isn't fully fit. We know we're taking, we're being overly cautious of players. Gusto, played 1 or 2 minutes in stoppage time against Sheffield United. He's been out for a few weeks. We were obviously building him back in. But for me, mate, the Gusto sub made a massive difference. We looked a lot more dangerous. We were a lot quicker on the transitions, a lot quicker to win the ball back, and certainly a lot quicker to get into Newcastle's final third. And then the Mudryk and Martin changes about 10, 15 minutes to go, and Nkunku's introduction. That realistically made all this. I know Nkunku didn't do an awful lot when he came on, but I just think him just being there gave the crowd a massive lift, and I think the players could have fed off that. But for once, mate, the subs came up trumps and made a big difference. And that's not always been the case for us.
Yeah, definitely. Under Pochettino, I would say his in-game management is something that's been questioned quite a lot. I would say in the past 2 games, we've definitely seen his in-game management actually be something that's probably earned him a result from the games. If you look at the weekend against Sheffield United, he changed stuff at half-time. We ended up going out there, getting a result. Whether or not that's a lot tactically or what he's just telling the players and the instructions of how we play. And then obviously this week we've made a lot of subs and they've worked out well. Everything you say about the fullback is just spot on. The difference that made by him just playing on the left and just giving us that overlap, I felt like when we have that on both sides, we're so dangerous. And we know what we've had before with Chilwell and Reece, like having those fullbacks, providing that width, that attacking threat. Years gone by, Alonso, players like that, it makes such a difference to a team. You only have to look at other teams in the Premier League that have had those attacking fullbacks do wondrous things for them as well. It just shows that when you're playing centre-backs there, you lack so much. Like, they don't have the ability to take a man on. I feel for Disasi. He's just the least likely player I would have ever thought would play right back out of all the defenders we have to cover that position. Defensively, yeah, I get it. But in a game like that, when a team's going to be sitting back because they're holding on to a 1-0 lead, I'd sacrifice the right back. I'd honestly put on or play Gusto there and sacrifice the left wing and put someone like Mudryk or Sterling there who's got recovery pace, but is going to be 9 times out of 10 in the opposition half, in that final third, attacking. That second half, we were barely attacked. Like, we barely got counter-attacked on. It was just Badiashile and Thiago Silva pretty much mopping everything up before it even crossed the halfway line.
Yeah, the subs made a big change. And hopefully now going forwards, obviously I know, we still don't have any actual left backs available. Yes, we've got Ian Martin, but it's clear that, as I said, he's not really fancied. But yeah, just the fullbacks make a big difference. Even if it's just on one side, it just gives you that outlet. It just makes such a difference to how you can operate and how you can play as a team during the game. And look, obviously it's knockout football. It doesn't matter how you win. And, if Newcastle had held on, yeah, they didn't play great. Yeah, they didn't do very much. But ultimately, they got the goal, fortuitously, whatever, and they just sat tight and were like, look, come and do your thing. If you can break us down, fair play. If you can't, then we'll go through to the next round. But I mean, Nkunku comes on with about 20 minutes to go. We've been waiting for this for a long time. I'll be honest, mate. He didn't. Look, I wasn't putting big pressure on him, but I know a lot of people have been putting pressure, expectation on him. He didn't really have very much to do in that game, if I'm perfectly honest. Yeah, he scored in the shootout, but in terms of his 20 minutes on the pitch, like in the game itself, there was nothing, where there was. I'm not saying he like wasn't important, but you know what I mean. Like he didn't really have very much to do. He didn't really kind of have an impact on the game, I guess, through his playing. But I just think, as I said earlier, like him just coming on, that impact it for the crowd and maybe just a lift for the players potentially as well. But I guess as debuts go, there's not really much to analyse on him.
Yeah, definitely not one to write home about, is it? I think you're spot on. It lifted the crowd. He had a standing ovation before he even entered the pitch. It's a player that we've just been crying out for. He's the player that we obviously signed to score us goals and solve that striker problem. If you're looking at a player that scored between 40 to 60 goals in the last 2 seasons combined, he's meant to be on the pitch. He's there. He's the Bundesliga top scorer 2 seasons in a row. That's why he's meant to be that's why he's meant to be playing. It just, as a debut goes, it was. There's things I can see with him where it looks like they're positives definitely to take from it, but actually what he did and the impact that he had actually playing in the game seems very minimal. I think a lot of it will be a mental lift to the players, to the team, to the manager, knowing that he can use him and he's lasted 20, 25 minutes. And then he's also taken a penalty and it's just getting his feet under the foot under the door or foot in the door or whatever. But the thing with debuts and how they go is we've seen it in the past. If we look at Mudryk, that game against Liverpool in last season, he looked unbelievable. It was like the second coming of Hazard. And then we just never saw, I still don't think we've seen anything close to the ability that we saw on that debut that day. And sometimes players get put so much into that debut, they kind of give us false hope. Whereas I feel like Nkunku, if he can just kind of find his way into the team, work out where he's going to play, work out. There was a couple of times when him and Sterling were on the counter-attack and Sterling laid the ball off to him and it was probably a little bit too far ahead, but Sterling doesn't know how Nkunku's going to react to that pass. It's little things like that, I think, where slowly he's a high enough quality player that he will build understandings with that. It's very rare you can sort of go and get like a Cole Palmer who comes in and literally from the get-go is that good. But I think that shows Cole Palmer's level is that he is realistically one of the best young players in the Premier League at the moment. And he's showing that every single game that he plays for Chelsea. He's on another level compared to half the squad.
No, he absolutely is. I mean, and just back to Nkunku briefly, like, it's interesting. I don't know if you noticed, but like as soon as he come on, we sort of almost reverted back to that kind of 3-2-5, as it were, that we were playing in pre-season. And we did look a lot better. And it's like I sort of had a feeling about it at the time when he got injured and when we had the first few games of the season that I was thinking surely our whole plans for the season weren't just based all around Nkunku, but I actually think they quite possibly could have been, because as soon as he come back in for 20 minutes, like debut or whatever, first time he's played for us, we went straight back to that 3-2-5. And it made a bit of a difference. Obviously, we're going to have to see what it's going to be like long-term going forward for the rest of the season and whatnot. But for me, it's kind of showing that there wasn't really a plan B for Nkunku not being available.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think if we look at Pochettino and how things have kind of worked out for him in the clubs that he's been at, he's probably always had a guy that he builds his team around. And PSG's Mbappe, and at Spurs it was probably Harry Kane. And he probably looked at Nkunku and thought, right, this is the guy who's going to lead me to victories with this team, and I can rely on him. But ultimately, we haven't had that, and he's kind of put in a lot of square pegs in round holes. We've got players out of position. We've got players kind of playing a role that's similar to what they'd play, but it's not quite exactly how they should be playing. That's not their best game. And I genuinely think as soon as he come on, it just kind of felt like we went back to the structure that we had in pre-season. And we literally haven't seen that since he got injured against Dortmund.
Yeah, no, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how he settles into this team, where he ends up being deployed. January will be interesting because he's probably going to end up playing a lot of minutes as a number 9 with Jackson going to the Cup of Nations. Broga's still not really up to speed, although he's probably a bit more up to speed than Nkunku is currently at the moment. So, but as far as it goes, it's just a massive lift that he's back, and hopefully, we still take care of him. We're still a little bit cautious of him, look after him because we're going to need him. But it's a massive lift that we certainly needed. I just wanted to talk about a couple of other players from last night. You touched on him earlier, Mykhailo Mudryk. I'm a massive fan of his. I like the kid since day one. I think there's so much ability there. He's the same age as the likes of your Sakas and whatnot, but in terms of experience, this is a guy that hadn't even played 50 games in the Ukrainian league before coming over to Chelsea, coming into a difficult environment, learning a new language, homeland being at war, all things that people don't take into account when like players are on the pitch. Now, he's improved a lot this season. I agree with you. I don't think we've really scratched the surface with how good this guy could potentially be, but at least now we're starting to see him affect games in a positive way. He's got a few goals this season. He looks dangerous. He's finding himself in the right place at the right time. He's often looking like one of our more potent attackers in terms of kind of making things happen. And you just go to show when you play consistently as a youngster, you are going to get better and you're going to start affecting the game. And I think Mudryk's one of those that, for me, just needs to keep starting because he is showing that he's got the capability. But at the same time, I'm just thinking there's so much more in this guy. When are we going to start to see what we know he's capable of?
Yeah, Mudryk is an exciting player. He's one of those players that definitely gets fans off their seat. He's got exceptional ability. I watch his training videos. So often he looks like the best player in training on the Chelsea YouTube
his
channel.
Finishing looks ridiculous in training.
He plays with such venom and excitement in training that sometimes I feel is limited when he performs on a game day. And I feel like, is that because he's worried about losing his place? I feel like in training he's got nothing to lose and he's just playing for his position. But he needs to try and obviously put that into his match day performances. Some players can never do that. But the thing is with Mudryk, I think if you go back and look at what he was doing for Shakhtar, albeit in a limited amount of games, he looked unbelievable. There are games when he's taken a Champions League game by the scruff of his neck and he's winning the game or scoring goals for Shakhtar, and he's the driving force behind the team. I've seen him do it for Ukraine as well. I feel like for those two teams, he was kind of put on a pedestal and it's like, you're the man, you're going to do this. You're going to, at Chelsea, he doesn't even know if he's going to get a 90 minutes. I don't even know if he's actually played 90 minutes for Chelsea yet since we've signed him. Maybe in a cup game.
I think he's maybe played 1 or 2, but he's certainly not completing. He's not completing 90 minutes on a regular basis. But man, I just think, I don't know if you've noticed, but I just feel like in certain games when he started and then he's been subbed off. I don't know if it's coincidental or if it's just me that thinks this, but the attack doesn't look anywhere near as threatening. And I'm not saying that he's constantly creating, but just having that out ball, just being able to give it to someone that can run direct, take players on, cause a problem. I just feel that like when he comes off the attack, even though there's still good players on there and whatnot, but I just feel the attack doesn't look as dangerous and it looks less likely to make something happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the thing with Mudryk is he has that one thing that no one can defend against, and that's speed. And he's unpredictable with it as well. I think he's unpredictable to the point that he doesn't always know what he's going to do, which is a little bit of a problem. And I think he'll only learn that with playing more games and working out what is working for him and what isn't. Like, he now knows that if a ball's coming into the back post and he's pressing that defender and putting him under pressure, he can get a result from that. So don't be surprised if we see him from now on putting that pressure on the fullback, defending the ball at the back post, because he knows he can score from that situation. I think it's just about it. Those situations becoming repetitive for him. He's kind of showed that when he first started, he would start on the left, he'd cut in. A lot of it was based on his game being inverted, cutting in, trying to work his shot. We're starting to see Mudryk now take the ball to the byline, try and make a cutback. We're seeing him improve his game. We definitely are. I think, look, if we get to the end of the season and Mudryk's got 6 goals in all comps, that's a huge improvement on last season. I know it's not probably the level where we think he should be, but this is a young guy who I think within 2 or 3 seasons will be hitting double figures, because I just think he has the ability to do it. He just needs a manager to believe in him. And the other thing that's so big, I think, for the whole team is that they have to be playing with players and getting familiar relationships consistently. We break the team up and it looks so different. Like we finished the game yesterday, it's probably the first time that 11's ever played together because Nkunku was in it. So
Yeah.
it just makes so much difference if Mudryk knows the type of passes that he's going to be receiving from midfield or defence, and the defence know that Mudryk's always on out on the left or something like that, they'll start to play the pass. But if they're not playing often enough, or it's chopping and changing, and you don't know who the midfield's going to be, or Pochettino's playing Enzo as a 10, and Mudryk doesn't start one game, he's probably thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Do you know what I think is a very good point as well, mate, is that what you touched on there in terms of that continuity and creating relationships on the pitch. Like, I think particularly in both fullback areas, like because of fitness problems, we have not been able to create a relationship. Reece James and Cole Palmer on that right-hand side should be a top, like, unbelievable sort of partnership down that side. Fortunately, Reece has got his injury problems, can't keep himself fit, so it's tough to get that continuity. I'm sure Gusto gets himself fit again like he is now. They can, him and Palmer or him and whoever is out on that right-hand side can start to build something a bit more solid and a bit more of an understanding. But I think on the left-back side of things, we know when Cucurella plays that, yes, he's a solid defensive fullback, but he doesn't really offer much getting forward. Levi Colwill, because he's a centre-back, it's hard to get forward and overlap on Mudryk and give him options. Like when Chilwell does that, you know, if you can get Chilwell playing regularly with Mudryk, I know we saw it at times last season and, you know, it didn't particularly work that well, but I think there's probably a better understanding. I think Mudryk's game's evolved a little bit there. Like, I don't think you can underestimate how important, like, a fullback winger relationship is. You only look back at, you know, I mean, it's a bit of an old example, but, you know, 99 treble season, Gary Neville, David Beckham, that right-hand side. Neville wasn't amazing, but, you know, that relationship with him and Beckham was phenomenal. And I think if Chelsea can get, you know, good relationships locked down with fullback and wide players, that for me will make a massive difference. And just like lastly on Mudryk and like assists and things like that, the amount of times the guy's got to the byline, put a really dangerous cut back into the box, and no one's fucking been there. Like, do you know what I mean? When people go, look at these numbers, but then people don't take into account the guy puts good balls into the box, but no one's there.
Yeah, I think the people that are saying look at those numbers are the people that are watching Match of the Day rather than watching the game in full, to be honest with you, or reading Twitter rather than even seeing any footage of the game. It baffles me that any Chelsea fan who watches Mudryk in his entirety can't see the potential. I think that's why at Stamford Bridge he does get backed. He always gets a clap. People love it when he comes on. He's exciting. He's the type of player that we love to see at Chelsea. And at the moment, I would probably dare to say he's our most exciting winger. I think Cole Palmer is a player that is occupying a wide area, but I don't class him as an out-and-out winger.
He drifts in a lot.
He does. He reminds me of your type of like your Bernardo Silva and players like that who will occupy a wide area, but they will dictate the game and they just like to play that inverted style because they can come in and see the whole pitch with their left foot. And he's a very, very good player, but he's not an out-and-out winger like Mudryk, who's got the pace to beat a man. Mudryk's so exciting. I think he has that frustration, a little bit similar to Timo Werner when he was at Chelsea, is that he's got a lot of exciting qualities, but it was just never the finished article. And obviously we know how that went. And he's gone back to Germany. He's arguably been not even close to what he was when his first time in Germany. But anyway, it's just like
a team. Yeah,
we'll back these players at Chelsea because we can see the potential there and we understand that it does take time. Like, look, as a fan base, we backed Torres for so long, and it never really worked out with him. He obviously scored.
Same with Shevchenko as well. Same with Sheva when he came. Like Chelsea, we will back players. Like I know certain sections of the fan base are very impatient and will write players off very quickly or whatever for their own reasons, which half the time don't really have any backing behind them at all. But you know, we will back players, and I think you can tell when the player's exciting, when the player's got something. And I think particularly with young players, I think whether they turn out any good or not in the long run, you have to get behind young players because the last thing you want is to damage their confidence, because confidence in football is massive and it's even bigger for younger players. And, you know, most of these guys are like kids, are 21, 22, 23 years of age. Like Gallagher's fucking our most experienced midfield player. He's 23. Like this is what people kind of are overlooking and don't really understand. But look, I think, well, look, let's be real. We know that all these signings, they're not all going to work out at Chelsea. That's just not how football works. But if we can provide an environment and provide get a culture which gives these guys the best chance of succeeding, then certainly more of them will work out than not. But that's obviously the big question that does need answering. I suppose we're not really going to know that for a few years' time. But mate, just kind of moving away from the Carabao Cup, obviously into the semis and whatnot. How do you take stock of where sort of Chelsea are right now in terms of, look, we're coming up to Christmas. We've got a few fixtures left this year: Wolves, Palace, and Luton before the new year. We're sitting I think we're just back into 10th in the table. How do you assess what's going on? Because for me, like, obviously, if you said to me at the start of the season at Christmas we'd be sitting probably 9th or 10th, I would have said that's shit, not acceptable. And I still think it's not acceptable, but I also feel that there are a lot of mitigating factors here that people either say are excuses, or because it's Chelsea, they're not valid because we spent so much money. Like, I just don't feel there's a lot of leniency when it comes to Chelsea. But when you hear about Newcastle and Brighton and Spurs, they got all these injuries. Look how well they've done. You get stuff coming out. Are they the real winners when we played Tottenham? Are they the real winners? And like thinking, we've consistently had 10 to 12 players out every fucking game from the start of the season. And these aren't just any players. These are like 4 or 5 players that would probably be either first team starters or they'd be on the bench and they'd make a massive difference coming on. Look, it's not good enough. Yes, we're not consistent enough. But I feel there is a style of play. There is an identity because we've seen it. We're just not seeing it on a consistent enough basis. And I just feel like, I don't want to say this was bound to happen because I expected us to do much better and feel we should be doing much better. But do you think the table doesn't lie at the end of the day? We're where we are because that's where we deserve to be. And right now, that's how good this team is. This team's got a ceiling to become a lot better than that. But I think as a team right now, this is where we're at.
Yeah, a lot of points to take on there. I think, look, you're right. The table doesn't lie. What I'd say is there's a couple of teams above us that have ultimately won games they didn't deserve to win either. And that's the difference, is this Chelsea team doesn't really have that. And that's what actually made me quite happy about yesterday, is we just kept on pushing and we ended up getting the draw. I never, ever class this Chelsea team right now as a team that's going to come back from, as soon as we concede, I feel like we're down and out, and that's pretty much it. And I don't know if the stats would prove that, but that goal last night is massive for this team to go, hang on, we were 1-0 down, we're not in a favourable position, and we fought our way back, and now we've ended up going through. It's little things like that you have to take and you have to build on. And then that will slowly move you up the table if you start to do that week in, week out. I think we've even seen the likes of Man United who are having an awful season, and we should have gone and beat them the other day. And they've had games this season where they've played awful and they've ended up nicking a goal at the end and they've won and they've moved up the table. And when I look at it, I think as a whole, our season's pretty similar to theirs, but we're way further down the table than them because we haven't been able to nick a result or just turn a loss into a draw or something like that and just gain
a bit of know-how. We kind of lack that know-how.
Right? But this team's so inexperienced that I don't see where that's going to come from unless they start doing it themselves. And last night's a great example. We've got 3 really, really interesting fixtures because 9 times out of 10, most Chelsea fans are going to say we win all 3 games. Look who we're playing. Chelsea can't afford to lose these games. For me, these have been our biggest test this season, games like this, where we've shown that we can dominate the ball, we can have the ball, we can have a lot of chances, and then not win the game. So we need to make sure that we're turning up in the next 3 games and we're showing improvement. We're showing that if we are sitting in a game with 60 to 70% possession, we're actually actively trying to work something. This is where I want to see what Nkunku can add to the team, because I feel like in these games where these teams are going to come and sit and they're going to make things difficult and they're going to put 10 men behind the ball, 9 men behind the ball, and make it really, really tough, can we unlock them? Because I feel like if we could unlock these teams, when we go and play a better team and the game's a bit more open because both teams are capable of winning it, I feel like that's when we're really good. And we show that at certain times. When we speed up the game and it's a counter-attack or the game's more open, we've gone and had really good games. Look at Arsenal, look at Tottenham, look at City. Like when those games are open, this team looks like it can compete. That's why I think if we get Liverpool in the final, hopefully in this competition, and all works out, like I fancy our chances against them because it's an open game. And if we look at our history against Liverpool in recent seasons and in the league and in cups, we've always turned up and matched it as well. So there's a few players left that'll know how that works. But yeah, for me, the next 3 games in the league are really, really important. I think that will show where Chelsea are really at. I think if we're going into the new year without 10, we can't get 10 wins, but that isn't good enough. Full stop. That isn't good enough. Out of what? It'll be like pretty much 20 games played by that point in the league.
Yeah, 18 or 19.
And we wouldn't have won
19,
half our games.
Yeah.
That's probably not good enough. So I do expect results for the next 3 games, but it's the style of football and the idea and what we're doing with the ball and what the game looks like is what I'm going to be focused on. And because those games come so quickly, I'm going to look at it come the end of December and go, right, this is where we are. Like this is how we've done, or going into that little winter break that we have and go, those 3 games and 3 wins back to back. What are we looking like? Are we making improvements? We've got players coming back in now who've waited all season for. We've got the team probably at its best level of fitness that it's been in terms of being sharp and the new Pochettino regime where these players are meant to be incredibly fit. That's what I'm interested to see. We're starting to see where your teams like Newcastle, they've played so many more games than us already. So we've got the result there last night. Probably because they got a little bit tired, because they got tired legs, tired minds. I mean, Trippier's playing a lot of games and he's not the youngest guy on the pitch anymore. So that's why I think this is where I think Chelsea can have a big impact, is if we can go into the second half of the season on a really good run of form and put together some good wins and really show the identity, like you said, on a consistent basis, then I think we're in a good position to kind of go into that second half of the season and really finish strongly and make a push for those European places. If we look at the table, I know we're 10th, but the gap isn't as big as I thought it would, because a lot of those teams are dropping points. They're not being consistent
certainly to those Europa League spaces, mate. It's not. I know, like obviously we want to be playing Champions League football, but we've got to be realistic at the same time. Look, I'm not writing it off right now, but it's looking very tricky. I'm not saying we can't do it, but it's looking difficult. But Europa League is attainable for us. And look, I know it's bad that we're 5 points or 6 points behind the terrible Man United side, but that's not insurmountable. 5 or 6 points, like that's nothing. That can go in 2 weeks, gone. So like we are in a half decent position. But I agree, mate. These next 3 fixtures and then the January window and stuff. And obviously, we've got the semi-finals of the League Cup, both legs in January. We've got the 3rd round. We've got the FA Cup journey beginning. Like, if we can win, if we can have positive results in these next 3 games, head into the new year on a bit of a high, get some experience in January, like, we could be really set up for a strong push on the second half of the season. But I know these are all ifs and buts, and football doesn't really work on ifs and buts. But, like, having just said, like, we deserve to be where we are, I also agree that on the same sentiment, we're not a million miles away from being quite competitive. And if we honestly believe, mate, that if we had Ivan Toney from the start of the season, honestly think, mate, we're top 5, top 6, just because he puts away two-thirds of those of the chances that we miss. I think he sticks them in the back of the net. And ultimately, for me, that's kind of been the difference. So yeah, football's fine margins, but the team needs to play better, sure. The manager needs to be better, sure. But I just think if we had a bit more quality in terms of proven quality rather than just potential quality, we'd be a lot higher up than we are right now.
Yeah, that's been Chelsea's problem for more than just this season, right? But I think the difference is that this season compared to last, I feel like everyone can see a difference. We're not being dominated in games like we were under Lampard last season towards the end. Lamps unfortunately doesn't have a clue when it comes to management and being competitive, I don't feel. So this season, we're seeing a difference under Poch. We're seeing that we're taking control of games and we are creating chances. Like you said, how many times has Mudryk fizzed the ball across the box? How many times has Sterling got to the byline on the right-hand side, cut the ball across, and Jackson's put it over, or Broja missed that one the other day? Like, if the strikers were doing their job, or someone was arriving late from midfield who was a goal scorer, which we don't have, and that's something we forget about how key that's been to this club in years gone by, that will make such a difference. If you've got Nkunku and an actual out-and-out goal scorer that can get on the end of these chances and actually make something happen, then I feel like you're completely right. You start turning your draws into wins and your losses into draws, and we're moving up the table. It worries me so much how many strikers have come to Chelsea and not been able to do the job. And I just wonder, like, I don't see someone around at the moment that's everything we need. I actually feel Jackson had a really good game last night, and I know he didn't end up getting on the score sheet, but look, I've been his biggest critic at times because I feel like he has this attitude that he hasn't earned yet. If I'm being completely honest with you, he has a lot of, like he was doing the drag back the other day. He walks around like he's already won 3 Champions Leagues, right? And he's got his own celebration. And he does the Ronaldo Sue and things like that. I just feel like work on what you've got to do first because you've got a lot of ability. When he came off last night, I feel like the attack actually lost something. I feel like he offered a lot more than what Broja was. And when he goes, we'll probably miss him in a way because there's times when he gets on the ball in like the middle of the pitch and he turns and he drives and he makes like this diagonal drive with the ball. He moves us up the pitch an awful long way. I think it's just frustrating that he isn't being as clinical as he could be, but he's already got a good amount of goals. I just think he's obviously got that stat boosted by that hat-trick of tap-ins. So I feel like he had a good game, and it's like he's another young guy. Like he's just got to have a bit of time, and maybe we've got the answer right in front of us, but the same thing is to be said. If you're bringing in a guy who can just score goals, even someone like when we signed Giroud in that January, right? He come in and he scored goals and he did his job, and he was never signed as our number 9. He was never going to be that guy. But every time he come into the team, he did his job and he ended up excelling at that job and he won the Champions League.
Yeah,
and he ended up scoring in all those Champions League group games and everything. And if you can buy a player like that as well and have him in the locker, and then you're looking at a front three with Jackson and Nkunku and one other that can play in that role, I feel like we suddenly look a lot more dangerous. It's just, who do you go out and buy? I mean, there's a goal going around from the weekend of Osimhen where he completely makes a goal out of his own ability. He's juggling the ball all the way around the box and then cuts it back. We don't have a player that's able to do that as a number 9. And that's what Diego Costa was so good at. That's what Drogba was so good at. Giroud, even Etu when he came, he could make a goal out of nothing. Like, at the moment, I don't see Broja doing that. I don't see Jackson really doing that, if I'm honest with you. And I feel like you said, if we can turn those chances and we've got a player that's alert and that can create a partnership with one of our midfielders, we could definitely move up the table. I also feel like a massive thing here is that our midfield, bar Cole Palmer, does lack a lot of creativity.
Yeah,
I
I would
don't
agree.
see the precise passes or the threaded passes that are needed to break down these low blocks, which teams are pretty much just putting on repeat against Chelsea, and knowing that if they do that, they have a chance of getting a point or something against Chelsea.
Absolutely. Look, I think Enzo's got that in his locker. I just think he's perhaps slightly being a little bit misused by Poch, or the system doesn't really get the best out of him at this point. I think Enzo's proven he's got that range of passing. We've seen it for a goal at West Ham last season when he puts a great ball in for Felix. We've seen it when he plays a fantastic ball over the top for Kai Havertz away at Leicester. Like, he's got that in his locker. I just think right now, the way that Poch is utilising him, and perhaps the system is not getting the best out of him. But I totally agree with you. Caicedo's not going to be a guy, for all his qualities and how good he is, he's not one of those that has got like an eye of the needle pass, you know. Neither is Conor Gallagher, really. You're looking at it and you think Cole Palmer's got that range of passing. In fairness to him, Mudryk's got some good passing on him. I've seen a couple of balls. There was one game, it was like a reverse pass, maybe earlier this season against Nottingham Forest or maybe Aston Villa. I can't remember which one. I think Mudryk's potentially got that in his locker, but you're absolutely right, mate. You know, we haven't got someone like a Cesc Fabregas in terms of that level of passing that it can just unlock a low block with one piece of quality. Like, we've got players that sort of can potentially do it and have done it in the past, but in terms of on a consistent basis, week in, week out, being able to do that, we don't quite have that right now, which again is a little bit of a problem in itself. But if we throw it forward to January, you know, we now, having got through, we now have 5 games instead of 3. So we've got Preston in the Cup, 2 legs of the Carabao Cup semis, and then we've got Fulham at home, and Liverpool away on the last day of January. So it's a little bit of a busier month. The window as well. If we kind of look ahead to the window, I just wanted to touch on outgoings before potentially addressing some incomings in a little bit more depth. Conor Gallagher, this does my head in. This fucking stories coming out that Chelsea will be prepared to listen to offers for him. We know he's got 18 months left on his contract. There's been no discussions, as far as I'm aware, from what I've looked at and read, that any conversations have taken place over a new contract. For me, probably the surprise package of the season. I'll be honest, I've said it many times. I wasn't asked to be left in the summer or not. If he stayed, fine, can be a good squad player. If not, no problem. We get some decent money for him. We reinvest. He's been a revelation this season. He's been absolutely phenomenal. For all the money we've spent on Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, this guy's been our best midfield player. He's been our most consistent performer alongside Cole Palmer, arguably our player of the season. He's been captain for large parts of the season as well. Again, against Newcastle last night, the guy was phenomenal. Man of the match performance. He was absolutely everywhere. And then you sort of hear things that, the ownership or the sporting directors or whatever would be prepared to sell him. And I'm thinking, this guy started every game this season, bar the one he was suspended for. Pochettino loves him. He's publicly praised him. Gallagher's said himself publicly he wants to stay at the club. He loves it at Chelsea. And yet we find ourselves in a situation where we could be wanting to use him as an FFP get out of jail free card.
Yeah. If Conor Gallagher is sold by the board, and it will only be by the board, it won't be anyone else putting that suggestion forward, it shows that they aren't the right board and they don't understand Chelsea Football Club, unfortunately, because losing a player like Conor Gallagher, look, it's 50 million, right? And it looks like a great write-off on the books, and it's great for them. I understand where they're looking from, but what you can't get back from that 50 million is you can't get a player like Conor Gallagher who cares about the club, who's been here since, he literally grew up round the corner from the training ground. He loves Chelsea. He's been around to see what Chelsea were doing when they were winning and what it took. He was in the academy when JT was there. Your Lampard in probably not so much, I'd say. But look, when we were winning the Champions Leagues and Europa Leagues, Conor Gallagher was in and around the building as a kid, and he knew what these players were doing, and he loves Chelsea and he's bought into it. And look, last year, I felt like he was really raw and he didn't quite know what he was doing when he was on the pitch, and he was completely inexperienced. And I feel like what he was being asked to do at Palace was a completely different job to what he was doing. And he also had managers that I think didn't know what they were doing either. And it just confused matters completely. And it felt at times Con was running around the pitch like a bit of a headless chicken, and it was just a red card waiting to happen. And I think we still see that at certain times, but now we're seeing a guy who's not hiding from the ball. He wants to get on the ball. That giving him the armband's been the best thing that could have happened to him, because it's making him want to step up and perform. The Poch likes him. If you're going to have Pochettino in and you're saying you're backing the manager, why are you going to sell the player that he's made captain? Realistically, now he knows the squad a bit more. I think he would have chose Conor Gallagher over Reece James, over Ben Chilwell, because he knows that 9 times out of the 10, he's going to be available to play the games as well. I think that's a whole nother talking point that Chelsea fans aren't discussing enough, is we can't have a captain that is never fit. Like, that just doesn't help anyone.
And vice captain as well.
Exactly.
Essentially, the captaincy group, I don't disagree with it per se. I think Reece was a good choice on the face of it. And I don't disagree with perhaps Ben Chilwell being a vice captain or part of that leadership group that they like, that football seems to have, that club seems to have these days. But ultimately, as a captain or a vice captain, you're no use to the team if you're never playing. But these two between them are just never available. I mean, I can't remember the last time that they were both available at the same time together, other than the first day of the fucking season. Other than that, you have to go back a few years. So I think it's absolutely fair what you say there in terms of hindsight's great, and that you think I should just give it to Thiago Silva, have Reece as vice captain, and then he steps up when Thiago probably leaves at the end of the season. But I think it's valid, that Gallagher probably now, in hindsight, he probably would have said that, well, I mean, there would have been an uproar amongst the fan base, but it potentially could have been a smarter captaincy choice, given the fact, he does what Reece does in terms of gives everything for the club, understands what it means and whatnot. Yes, we know Reece James is a better footballer than Conor Gallagher in terms of ability and whatnot, but Gallagher's always there, and you need your captain to be available more times than not. And I think, if we were to sell him in January, like, for me, that shows that, one, that whoever the manager is not really an important part of the project. That's seen as an interchangeable piece. The project will continue regardless, and it goes to show that the recruitment and the transfer strategy is not a cohesive relationship. It shouldn't be the manager having all the say, and it shouldn't be the directors on the board having all the say. It should be a collective effort, and we know full well that Poch would not give input to get rid of Gallagher, and therefore we know that that will be ignoring the manager's wishes. And that's got the potential to create a wedge between manager and directors and board. And it's got a potential to create a wedge between fans and the ownership and the footballing department. So this has got a lot of negative connotations to it.
Yeah, I think Chelsea fans love a player like Conor Gallagher, someone they can buy into, someone who they see as themselves. They grow up as Chelsea fans. If they were on the pitch, they'd give their all like Conor does. And that has, like you say, the potential to cause a huge rift amongst different areas of the club. Fans, the board, the managers, the coaching team, the directors. I mean, look, we've already had Vivell leave the club because he felt like what he was asking for wasn't happening. So I don't understand it. There's players at the club now that we can generate funds from that will make similar amounts of money to Conor Gallagher, and we could also get clear profit. If I'm being honest, I think Broha, Matson, and Chalobah are the first three names that need to be discussed in January.
I fully agree on that as well.
Rather than putting Conor Gallagher, who's probably up there with our highest minutes made this season as well, captain of the club pretty much in my eyes at this moment in time. A player that is winning man of the matches, a player that understands what it takes to go and win football matches, a player that shows how much it means. He steps up. He's taken a penalty last night. He's not afraid, and he doesn't shy away from anything he's ever asked to do. The problem I think people have with Conor is that there are things to his game that we know there are players out there that could do better and occupy that space, but there are teams out there that have gone on to win multiple stuff, and you always have a player in the similar mold to Conor Gallagher. I think that Liverpool team not too long ago, they had Jordan Henderson in that midfield, and he's in a similar sort of mold to
not the most talented, most talented guy, but works hard and always puts a shift in for the team.
Yeah, exactly that.
And you get on board with that. You can get behind that as a fan. You know, for me, I'm happy to sacrifice a bit of talent and ability for someone that is A, available 9 times out of 10, and B, gives 100% every single time on the pitch. Those two things can often make up for any talent deficiency in players for me.
Yeah, look, you only have to look at the players that have got a huge abundance of talent but lack everything in that direction. I mean, we've seen plenty of players turn up at Chelsea with a lot of talent and then not had that drive and determination and the will that Conor Gallagher has to want to succeed at the club that he loves. And that's the other thing. He has that bond with Chelsea that other players aren't just going to have. We have players come through the academy that don't even have that because we bought them in at like 15, 16. Conor's been here since very, very early on. It's like what we had with Mason Mount. Mason Mount had the potential to go on and be at that level, and he decided to turn his back on the club and leave. And Conor Gallagher is saying everything right. He's saying he doesn't want to go. I think he just needs to be reassured that he's going to get the game time that he needs. And also that if he is getting this game time, he gets a contract that is realistically right for the types of players that are also getting those sort of minutes, right? Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think if we get down to that 12-month period on his contract, it's going to be inevitable that he's sold.
Yeah. But do you know what it is, though? Like, for me as well, just like, it's not about Chelsea not being able to get someone better than Conor Gallagher or that there's not better players out there. There absolutely are. This is not about whether you rate Gallagher or not. This is not about whether there's better players available. This is about the precedent that it sets at the club, as we went into about, you know, not a cohesive recruitment strategy between manager and sporting directors and ownership. It's about the message that it potentially sends to the academy. You know, Bowley and stuff was speaking, you know, very glowingly about the academy not so long ago. Was that just political and disingenuous potentially? And you know, we also can't keep just cashing in on academy graduates to plug holes in the roof before it caves in from shocking recruitment. You can't just keep getting away with spending millions and millions of pounds on players who aren't going to work out or don't work out, and then just think, oh, it's fine. We'll just sell an academy graduate to cover up our mistakes, to stop the roof from falling in as such. Like, you can't keep doing that. So this for me is not about his quality. It's not about better players not being available. It's about the message and the precedent that it sets. And it sets a dangerous one at that. But I mean, look, let's hope he stays. But ultimately, like, but the thing is, even if they want to sell him, and I think it's clear, this ownership have wanted to sell Gallagher from day one. So why did they not sell him in summer 22 in the first window they came in? Because it's clear that they wanted to sell him. They tried to sell him last summer. They tried to sell him in the January as well. And he's still here. So it's clear the plan was to sell him. Why didn't you just do it right at the start? And no one really would have complained as much, because you think, right, summer 22, all right, Gallagher's not been doing that much. Yes, he's an academy boy, but he's not really had much of an impact on the team. You think you take the money, but now I'm thinking, nah, do you know what? It would be a disgrace. But I mean, in terms of incomings, mate, we've kind of touched on what we need. Do you see us getting a striker in January? Because for me, we know we need that position dealing with, and if we can do it in January, fantastic. But I'd rather make sure we get the right signing rather than just signing for the sake of it. And I look at it and I think Victor Osimhen, we know when he pens that new Napoli contract, there is a release clause in there. But let's be honest, release clause, we're going to have to structure it like with Enzo, pay a bit more and then get more favourable payment terms. There's no way we're in a position to pay all that in one go and comply with the rules. Secondly, I don't think Napoli sanction a mid-season exit when they're still going for top four in Serie A. They're still going in the Champions League as well. And then Ivan Toney as well, you're looking at maybe 70, 80 million pounds for him. That would be my choice. But then you've got Arsenal sniffing. If they get themselves together financially, as much as I hate to say it, if you're 27 going on 28, this is going to be your big move in your career. Arsenal right now is a much more attractive proposition than Chelsea to a more experienced player, because they've not got the years to wait at Chelsea for it to come good. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, Osimhen doesn't seem likely in January. And Toney, if he's got a choice between Chelsea and Arsenal, is probably going to pick Arsenal. And then you're looking at players like Victor Gyökeres at Sporting Lisbon. Look, he was playing in the Championship for Coventry last season. Had a very good season for sure. He's doing very well at Sporting Lisbon this first 6 months. But that's, for me, that's not the calibre we're looking at. Not to mention he's got 100 million euros release clause in his contract as well. If we're signing a centre forward, this needs to be a top guy that is ready to come in and make a difference right now. I'm just not sure there's that many available, and whether a mid-season move is even that possible. So I think it leaves us in a tricky situation.
Yeah, it's such a tough one. I think there's so many names you could just throw into the hat, because I feel like the current generation of strikers that are out there and available at the moment isn't as blessed as what European football's had in years gone by, if I'm being honest with you, that are available, right? I mean, look at some of the best strikers in the world are into their 30s now, and they're not the players that are going to be realistically joining Chelsea. The same with your 28, 29-year-olds. They're not going to join Chelsea if we're not competitive and we're 10th in the Premier League. They're going to look at it and go, okay, I could go there, but it is a bit of a risk. Whereas I could go to Arsenal, who are going to be competitive with or without me. So I'll just add to that team and probably go and win something. Osimhen, we might pull it out the bag. That's the sort of thing that I think Bowley would love to do, because I feel like he loves to flash his cash and be like, I'm going to buy this player. If it happens, Napoli will probably go and spend that money on Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon or something like that, right? They'll have a lot of money in the bank to spend, but it's an interesting one for me in terms of recruitment there. I actually think Nkunku's come back at the worst possible time in terms of the January transfer market, because now he's back. If he scores or he has a couple of good games, they'll go, oh, no, we're okay.
Yeah.
And then if it dries up again, then we'll go, oh, we missed January. And then we've got to wait all the way to the end of the season. I don't see Ivan Toney coming. I actually said in the summer, I think he would have been the best signing possible. And we could have done 6 months, and then he would have been coming now in January, and then we push on. But I don't see him coming to Chelsea, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think he's flirting and tweaking for Arsenal, and I think that's where he wants to go. And if he doesn't want to be at Chelsea, look, we've had that in the past, and I don't want it again. If a player doesn't want to be at Chelsea, I don't want to be at Chelsea. Osimhen spoke in that interview with John Obi Mikel on that podcast, and he said, like, he didn't shy away that he likes Chelsea. And I feel like that's the one. But the problem is, if we go and spend that money on him and then he doesn't perform, don't forget, he's been out injured quite a bit this season. And he had all that politics going on as well. And he's not had the season he had last year. And I know he's done it in 2 countries now. He's done it in France and he's done it in Italy. But there are plenty of players that have gone and done it in a couple of leagues, and then they come to the Premier League
Well,
and they
this
don't quite
is
cut it.
that's my slight reservations about Osimhen, is that all the things that people are praising Osimhen for are all the things that Lukaku was doing in Serie A. All right, he's not doing assists like Osimhen did at the weekend just gone, and they're different players and whatnot. But ultimately, Osimhen is scoring a load of goals in Serie A. Lukaku scoring a load of goals in Serie A. Like, yes, I know they're different players. Obviously, Osimhen's younger, 24 years of age, more room to develop and whatnot. And it's probably is a better all-round player than Lukaku. But all the things he's being praised for are kind of all the things we are praising Lukaku for doing in Serie A. And I'm just skeptical about Chelsea spending over £100 million on another striker and it just not working out. Like, because for me, there's no guarantees anyone works out, but you can get more guarantees. I think there's more chance that Ivan Toney works out at Chelsea than Victor Osimhen does. And that sounds mad saying that, because Osimhen is a better centre forward than Toney. But in terms of what I think's best for Chelsea, I actually think signing Ivan Toney is better for Chelsea and then this team's needs than signing Osimhen. But I mean, it looks like it's going to be those two, but then you can't fully rule out someone like a Gorkrez. You can't really rule out Santiago Jimenez at Feyenoord. But these are guys that would be kind of development strikers. Yes, they're more experienced than Nicholas Jackson, but they're kind of the same age as him. Yes, they've played more top flight football, but it's the same age. And you're looking at, these aren't guys to come in and make a difference right now. You're looking at right now difference makers. And really, you're looking at Victor Osimhen, you're looking at Ivan Toney. And I just don't think either are that attainable in January. Toney's probably more attainable, but as we said, if Arsenal get their money together and put it on the table, he will 100% choose them, or 99% choose them. So I'm looking at it. Yes, we need someone, but I don't know if either of our two options are going to come in January or actually want to join us. Because if you're Osimhen, the smart thing to do is I wait till the summer. If Real Madrid don't get Mbappe, I know everyone says Mbappe's going to end up there, but it hasn't happened yet. If Madrid don't get Mbappe, they need a centre forward. Osimhen ticks the box. They'd happily spend that money on the release clause. If Mbappe leaves, PSG might be looking for another star player. He could go there, play Champions League football every season, be a big part of that team and that project. You've got options. So if I'm Osimhen, unless I'm desperate to join Chelsea, I would be advising him to wait to the summer, because you're going to have a much better chance of, much more clubs, going for you. And for me, if you're Chelsea, if you want Osimhen, even if it's agreeing a deal in January to come in the summer, we have to agree it in January. Otherwise, for me, I don't see how Osimhen comes to Chelsea.
Yeah, I think you're right. It has to be done in January, as soon as there's other clubs in the market that are willing to spend as well, or it looks like they're not going to get the player they want. I don't see us being competitive at the moment because of where we are. I think that's why we got Enzo, to be completely honest with you. I think if I could sign any striker to come in right now and it be a fairly decent bet, I think I'd sign Taremi from Porto. I like him. He's scored goals consistently for a good few seasons now. He wouldn't break the bank, and I think he'd just be an interesting one to kind of come in and see if he can put the ball in the back of the net and be a stopgap that gives us time to identify a striker that is in the complete right mold for the manager that we're deciding we're going to back. And that's where I think we'd be better off making a signing like that, rather than going, oh yeah, Osimhen's flavour of the month, let's smash 140 million on him. The thing with this board and its recruitment strategy so far is that we've signed a lot of players that have been flavour of the month, and then they've come in, and then when their form sort of dries up, look at Jackson. He scored 8-9 goals in 12 games at the end of the season, and we signed him because of that. But in January, before he had that form, he was going to go to Bournemouth and failed the medical. So we're looking at a guy that was relegation level for the Premier League, and then we've signed him as our number 9 because he scored 9 goals in 12 because he hit a bit of form. It annoys me and it frustrates me how slapdash this recruitment approach has been. And that's why I feel like if you go and sign someone that's proven, that's putting in double figures every season, and they just score goals and they kind of fill the gap for a bit, and then we find and scout out a real talent that fits the bill, or someone emerges that is the perfect fit that we've seen before. Like, we obviously scouted Diego Costa and we knew that he'd be the perfect fit, and we scouted Drogba, and Giroud was probably identified as a player that could come in and fit that bill, because we've signed so many more players, but they've never quite done that. I mean, look at Morata. Morata coming to lead the line, and it was just never him. It just wasn't. Havertz, the same. Werner. These players, oh yeah, they're doing well. They're like the hyped player at the moment, but then they come in and they don't perform. Chelsea needs a very different type of striker as well, because we can't just go out there and put in I'll be completely honest with you. I think Haaland would have been in the mould that we require at Chelsea, but
I actually
obviously,
think I think he would have been shit for us. I'll be real.
really, do you?
Yeah, I do, mate. Just because I just don't think we'd create enough chances for him. Maybe a little bit different now, but at the time we were linked with signing him, we didn't have enough chances being created in the team. So it wouldn't have really been any good having him here. But mate, it's tricky. I think we've got to move away from signing strikers based on their name and actually signing a player that fits how we want to play. Like, that needs to be important. And if that means you sign a slightly lesser name, but they're suited and they fit the style of play, rather than signing someone because they're a big name and trying to mold them to how we play, and 9 times out of 10 not being able to do that and it not working, it going down as another expensive striker being signed. I think we've got to look at the bigger picture here. And yes, it's exciting to get a big name, but ultimately we need someone that fits what we're looking to do more than just signing a big name. And if that means we go for a slightly lesser name, then maybe that's what we have to do. But right now, mate, you can reel off so many expensive strikers we've had that have been phenomenal everywhere in their careers, but then as soon as they've come to Chelsea, they've been shit. And that's not because they're shit players. It fundamentally, for me, has to be the environment that we're at, the culture we have at the club, and the way that we're setting up to play is like we haven't done our homework and we're signing players that don't suit how we play because we just want a shiny toy. We need to move away from that. And I just worry that Osimhen would be another one of those. And I think Tony probably suits the team much more. But yeah, we could go on all day about this, mate. We'll probably round this one out now. But thanks so much for your time as always, mate. If people want to check out more of what you do and where you do your stuff and that, where should they go? And we'll link it in the description and tag it in the title.
Yeah, so all my socials are BDB Dan. It's the name literally somewhere I've typed in as well. So yeah, check it out. I've been on the Chelsea fan channel a couple of times as well. So yeah, check it out. Look at the stuff and subscribe if you like what you see.
Yeah, guys, make sure you head over, show Dan some love, great stuff, good takes and all that stuff. Make sure you do it. Smash the likes as always. People, subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV. Leave your thoughts in the comments below as always. And we'll be back with another episode soon, guys.